Okay, so hello and welcome to another tutorial about the ISAW A3. Today we're going to be looking at time lapses. Okay, so there's two options for time lapse available. The first being time lapse video, which allows the camera to go in and straight away make a time lapse of your photos, but instantly into a video, so there's no messing around in software afterwards. Now this is really good if you just want to get your time lapse done, get it uploaded to YouTube or something straight away, but it's gonna not give you much room to play with it in terms of what you could do if you were doing time lapse photos. Now the camera also does that. We're going to look at that in a little bit more detail in just a few minutes. First of all, we are going to cover just how to set the camera up to do it as time lapse video. So first thing you want to do is change your settings. Now at the bottom here at the moment, I'm set up to shoot in manual at 1080 at 60 frames a second. What we're going to do is we're just going to go in and change that 1080 down to something like probably, just want to go 1080 30 frames a second. Now we're in the 1080p at 30 frames a second. That's probably a good place to start. So now you want to go to the M, change this, go all the way across. Now here we go, we've got time lapse every 10 seconds, time lapse every 30 seconds. I tend to go for something like, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing a sunset or something that's slow moving, you can go time lapse 10 seconds. And then, as soon as you hit record now, although it looks like it's going to be recording a video, what it's actually doing is recording a time lapse. So once it's done that, you can go ahead and you'll be able to play it back just as if you were playing back a video, but what it's doing is basically just doing one frame of your video every 10 seconds, which is then going to create pretty dramatic, I don't know if it's a sunset, landscape, that kind of thing. It's going to give you a pretty bit of dynamic image there, and you can go ahead and tweak it a little bit in your editing software, apply it to your videos, that kind of thing afterwards. Okay, let's stop that. It will also allow you to play it back in camera, but me doing that on the table isn't going to be a very good example of that. So you can go ahead and play with that and post your videos online, tag us in them so we can have a little look. And now we're going to have a little look at time-lapse photos. Okay, so now we're going to have a little look at time-lapse photo. Now, as I said previously, this is going to give you much more scope. It's going to shoot it in a much wider angle, that big square aspect ratio. That's going to let you go in and you know, if you're good at what you use in something like After Effects or something like that, you're going to be able to pan, zoom in and out on these and not really lose any information. So what we're going to do, we're going to go and change some of the settings here. We're going to nip over to photo mode. So that's the bottom of the two buttons there. So now we're in the mode for photos. What we want to do is, now mine's set up in a bit funny way here. We're going to go down, keep pressing the wrong ones. We're going to go and choose to check what we've got. So we've got 12 megapixel photos. I'm happy with that. That's going to give us a really wide shot to be able to go in and zoom in without losing any quality. Because remembering, you are going to be turning this into a video. So options in here now. We've got self timer, we've got burst. Now here's time lapse. Again, we're going to choose time lapse 10 seconds. Play with these though, find what's best for you. So time lapse for 10 seconds. Now what this is going to do now, see if we can get this a bit better focus. There we go. So you can see the settings along the bottom. This is now when we choose to take a photo. You'll notice every 10 seconds, so we've got to wait a sec, it's going to take another photo. So you want to have this as still as you can on a tripod or something like that. There we go, you can see it's taken another one now. Stop that now. What this is going to do is it's going to go and create a ton of files, you know, as many files as it's actually going to take to be able to record your video. So if you're sitting there for, I don't know, an hour watching the sun go down, if this is doing that at the same time, you're going to have that. Or I don't know, say some people setting up marquees for an event like, you know, Mountain Bike World Cup or something like that. That's what you want to do. Then you can set that up on the hillside, looking back at the event, and it'll have marquees going up and down, vans coming in and out, you know, whatever it is. So what you want to then do is nip over into your computer. So once you're in your computer, you'll be able to open something like, go into After Effects and create, you know, create a little bit more about being able to zoom in, pan, choose how long you want your clips to last, how long each frame lasts. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over into After Effects now and have a little bit of a chat about that in some more detail. So first things first, obviously import your footage into your computer. I've got a little folder here called Time-lapse. We're going to be using that. So there's a few photos in there. They're not the best. We've just got a few, you know, from a garden there. So we're just going to nip up into After Effects now. There's other pieces of software you can do this in, but we're doing it in After Effects. Okay, so first thing to do, you're going to create a new composition. Now, we're going to do this, and I'll probably get told off for this, but we'll do this at 30 frames a second because that's what these After Effects, well, that's what the cameras tend to use. We're just going to call this Time-lapse. So I'm happy with the settings there. You can ignore the duration, we sort that out later if we need to. Now I've only got a couple of hundred photos, so it's not going to take ages. So it's assuming 30 frames a second. We're just going to press OK. What we're now going to do is go to Project up here, choose Import. So in this case I'm not going to use keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to go File, Import File. I'm going to bring up our import window again, so that's File and Import, or if you've got a Mac like me, press Command I. So navigate to your folder, so desktop in my case. We'll go and open this time-lapse folder. Now you'll notice when you click the first image in the sequence, it will automatically check JPEG sequence. If it hasn't, you need to select this. We go Open. Now what it tries to do is assume that you want to use 30 frames a second for your playback. Now you can experiment with this. It's going to be over really quickly. So if you right click and choose Interpret Footage and we go Main, we're going to tell this to assume 15 frames a second. Now it depends how long and how fast you've had it recording, but that's okay. A couple of things you can do. Now I tend to work from 15 frames a second into a 30 frames a second timeline. What this is going to do, it will hold every frame for 2. Now you can see straight away that the size difference here in terms of our composition window. So this box that you can see on the screen is 1080p. This area around it is our photos. Now I'm not sure if this was shot in 12 megapixels or not, it might be a bit smaller. We're going to click the edges, hold Shift, and make it the size that you want. Now we'll just something like that. That's quite nice. Okay, so what we'll do is we can see down on my timeline that my photos are going to take me up to 11 seconds long. So this has already stitched all of those photos together for us. So what I'll do to tell it that it's going to be 11 seconds long is we're just going to pull the work area handles in and say it's 11 seconds long. So we'll do now, so we're just going to choose our RAM preview button. You should have this up here. Choose RAM preview. So it's just going to build this up for us. Now it may take longer on a computer, it all depends on how much RAM you've got, what your processing power is. So we'll come back to this once it's done just now. But there we go, you can see that your time-lapse plays. Now you can get experimental with this and move things around and that kind of thing, but the next step really would be to export your video, or if you're not happy with how quick it's playing back, you can go ahead and you can tweak things like how many frames a second a timeline is. You can go ahead, slow this down, ramp it up. There's hundreds of After Effects tutorials out there for creating a time-lapse. This is just a very brief example. So to render this out, you just want to go up to your composition button, choose Add to Render Queue, and I would find yourself a destination. And once you find yourself a destination, hit save. So I'm going to save it to the desktop. I'll hit save, and then it's simply press render. But what we're going to do is I'm going to put in now a different time-lapse I did using similar techniques. It was then imported into Final Cut, and then we added some text, some music in After Effects. If you watch the video very carefully, you'll notice that it pans from left to right. You can do that by setting keyframes in After Effects, but again, you know, have a look for some more detailed tutorials online. And
that's all from After Effects. Thanks for watching this tutorial. I'll leave you with the time lapse that we created of a sunrise one morning a couple of months ago. Cheers guys, goodbye.